Warning: the Curious Native podcast contains mature topics and themes that are intended for an older youth and adult audience. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, welcome to the Curious Native Podcast. I'm your host, hunnasmak, and in today's episode, we will be discussing The Night of the Living Dead, a groundbreaking horror film from 1968 that redefined the genre and challenged societal norms. Directed by George A. Romero, The Night of the Living Dead features a predominantly it features a black lead actor and a black hero, which was unheard of at that time. The film's social commentary on race and its depiction of zombies as flesh-eating monsters that are impervious to pain and cannot be killed except by destroying their brain has become the standard for zombie genre. And, horror films today, the films released during the civil rights era was also a significant, message as it challenged negative stereotypes of black people that were prevalent in Hollywood and cinema at that time. If you're interested in my thoughts, opinions, and, both on the 1990 version, I believe, is when that remake came out, and the original 68 version, please keep on listening. Night of the Living Dead is a 1968 black and white horror movie directed by George A. Romero. The film begins with siblings Barbara and Johnny driving to a cemetery to visit their father's grave. While there, they are attacked by a man who appears to be a zombie. Johnny is killed, and Barbara flees to a nearby farmhouse. Once there, she meets Ben, a man who is also fleeing from the zombies. They soon realize and discover that, the farmhouse is a safe place to hide. But they are not alone. There are five other people hiding in the basement, including a married couple, their daughter, which that shit was crazy. I recently just watched it, which is why I'm doing an episode on it in the first place. But yeah, I'm not gonna do too much spoilers on like the little shit. I will talk about the ending of the movie, obviously, because I feel like everybody knows like at least like what kind of happens towards the end of the film, anyways. But that shit with the little girl, that shit's crazy. Including their daughter and a teenage couple. The group soon realizes that the zombies are not only a threat as they begin to turn on each other due to their differences in opinions on how to survive. Tensions rise as they argue about whether to stay in the farmhouse or to try to make a run for it. As the night progresses, the zombies become more aggressive and the group begins to lose hope. They try to find ways to escape, but their plans are foiled by zombies. The group is eventually killed off one by one until only Ben is left. In the final scene, Ben is killed by a group of hunters who mistake him for a zombie. The movie ends with his body being thrown into a pile of burning corpses, which is very reminiscent of old images of like lynchings and shit. So, just I'm prepping you guys for like when we get into some of the like heavy conversation. So, um, Night of the Living Dead was a breaking film for its time. It was one of the first horror movies to feature zombies, and it was also one of the first to have an African American lead actor. The film was made on a very low budget, but it was a huge commercial success and became a cult classic. The movie is often interpreted as a commentary on the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War. Many people say the zombies, they see them as representation of the oppressed and disenfranchised, which I guess, I'm gonna say why in a minute. While the hunters represent the oppressive forces. Night of the Living Dead has had a lasting impact on popular culture and has inspired countless other horror movies and TV shows. It is considered a must-see for any horror movie fan and any fan of the zombie apocalypse genre in as a whole. And it remains as a classic of the genre to this day. Night of the Living Dead has been embraced by marginalized communities for a variety of reasons. One of the most significant reasons is the representation of the black lead character, Ben, who is played by Dwayne Jones. The At that time of the film's release in 1968, it was rare to see a black actor in a lead role, especially in a horror movie. Jones' portrayal of Ben was groundbreaking and helped to pave the way for more diverse uh, representation in film. Many people in the marginalized communities relate to Ben's struggle to survive in a world that is hostile towards. Oh shit, my notes. I'm sorry. Ben is constantly fighting against Ben's struggle to survive in a world that is hostile towards him. Ben is constantly fighting against the zombies and other characters in the film who do not believe in his abilities or his worth. This struggle reflects the experiences of many people of color who have had to fight for their rights and their dignity in a society that is often hostile towards them. The film also has themes of social commentary that are relevant to marginalized communities. Many people see the zombies as a metaphor for the oppressive forces that they face in their daily lives. The zombies are relentless and unfeeling, and they represent the systems of oppression that many people feel powerless to fight against. In addition to the themes of social commentary, Night of the Living Dead is also loved by marginalized communities for its representation of strong, capable women. And I'm speaking solely on the 90 version, not to say that Barbara isn't strong in her, the original Barbara. I'm just saying that, like George A. Romero even said himself, he fell into the damsel in distress trap without even realizing it. And, she's tripping over her high heels. She's catatonic by the end of it all and ends up dying, and it's like a whole thing. It's just, this is specifically what I read from the 90s version, I believe. Barbara, the female lead, is initially portrayed as helpless and traumatized by the events of the film, which I like that, where she, in the beginning of the film, she seems to at least be a little bit more capable in the original, but in the by the end of it, she is catatonic, versus in the remake she seems to be a bit more, traumatized and scared and helpless. But by the end of the film, she's a total fucking badass. So it's like a really cool mirror version of that original 68 version. So yeah, I do recommend people go watch that. But let's see. However, as the film progresses, she becomes more assertive and takes an active role in the group's survival. This portrayal of a strong, capable woman was rare for its time and has continued to inspire women in marginalized communities. This film's director, George A. Romero, has also been praised for his commitment to diversity and representation. Romero has also, was also known for casting diverse actors in his films, and he has often tackled issues of social justice in his work. Romero's commitment to diversity and representation has helped to make Night of the Living Dead a beloved film in marginalized communities. Overall, Night of the Living Dead has been embraced by marginalized communities because of its representation of diverse characters and its themes of social commentary. The film has, helped to inspire in these communities to fight against oppression and to stand up for their rights. It has also helped to pave the way for more diverse representation in film and has helped inspire many filmmakers to tackle issues of social justice in their work. George Romero's decision to cast a black man as the lead in Night of the Living Dead was groundbreaking for its time. In the late 1960s, Hollywood was still very dominated by white actors, and it was, rare to see a black actor in a leading role. Romero's decision to cast Dwayne Jones as the lead actor, Ben, was a bold move that challenged the status quo of the film industry. Romero has stated in interviews that he did not originally write the role of Ben as a black character. However, when Jones auditioned for the role, Romero was struck by his talent and charisma and decided to cast him in the part, which was always like my favorite part. I love that, you know, he went in there and he totally blew away all the other white actors, and Romero was like, "Damn, that's fucking Ben. That's Ben. Like that's Ben. Like Dwayne Jones is Ben." And not to take away from Tony Todd, because he did such a great job in the remake, and Tony Todd is such a fucking legend. So I will never, he does great as Ben. But to me, Dwayne Jones will always be Ben. Like that's fucking Ben. Romero has also stated that he was not consciously trying to make a political statement with the casting of Jones, but rather he was simply trying to cast the best actor for the role. Despite Romero's intentions, the casting of a black actor as the lead in a horror film was a significant political statement at the time of the film's release. The civil rights movement was in full swing, and there was a growing awareness of the lead's representation, a greater I apologize. There was a growing awareness of the need for greater representation of people of color in all areas of society. Romero's decision to cast Jones as the lead character in Night of the Living Dead was a reflection of this growing awareness and a challenge to the dominant white culture of Hollywood. The casting of Jones as the lead also had a significant implications for the film's plot and themes. Ben is a strong, capable character who is forced to fight for his survival in a world that is hostile towards him. His struggle strongly reflects the experiences of many people of color, specifically black people, who have had to fight for their rights and their dignity in a society that is often hostile towards them. The fact that Ben is played by a black actor adds an extra layer of significance to his struggle and helps to make the film's themes of social commentary even more powerful. The casting of Jones as the lead also had implications for other characters in the film. The other characters in the film were all white, and they often underestimate and dismiss Ben because of his race. The dynamic, they do dismiss him because of his race. It's subtly implied because, especially with Ben's actor, who he's played by Dwayne Jones, a black man, but it's not outwardly because it's more so of distrust and the themes that kind of play into that. It's not outwardly you are black and we do not trust you. It's just kind of hinted at. Like I said, though, Romero didn't intentionally. He said, at least he said he didn't intentionally do it, but um, this dynamic reflects the real world experiences of many people of color who've dealt with racism and discrimination from their white peers. The fact that Ben is able to prove his worth and capability in the face of discrimination is a powerful statement about the resilience and strength of people of color. Overall, George Romero's decision to cast Dwayne Jones as the lead in Night of the Living Dead was a groundbreaking move that challenged the status quo of the film industry and made a powerful statement about the need for greater representation of people of color in all areas of society. This film's themes of social commentary, combined with Jones' powerful performance, helped to make Night of the Living Dead a landmark film in the history of cinema. Night of the Living Dead is a groundbreaking film that has not only revolutionized the horror genre but also challenged racial politics in America. The film was released in 1968 at the height of the civil rights movement, and its depiction of a black protagonist in a leading role was a significant departure from the Hollywood norm of the time. You got like who would have been who would have been a big time actor back then? I don't know. I'm not really too I don't know too much about all the actors, like specifically white actors back then. I wouldn't be able to name one. So I'm not even gonna fucking attempt. The film's protagonist, Ben, is a black man who finds himself trapped in a farmhouse with a group of white people as they fight off a horde of flesh-eating zombies. Ben's race is never explicitly addressed in the film, but his presence in the lead role was a powerful statement in the time when Hollywood was still grappling with issues of race and representation. And, when I say in a time when Hollywood was still grappling with issues of race and representation, that's just one of the times because it's still an issue today of, representation for people of color. The film's commentary on race is subtle but effective. The white characters in the film are often portrayed as irrational and prone to panic, while Ben's remains, calm and level headed in the face of danger. The film also addresses the issues of racial tensions and mistrust, as the white characters are initially suspicious of Ben and questions his authority. The film's shocking and violent ending is also significant in its race. It's also significant in its commentary on race. I apologize. Without giving too much away, the final scene in the film is a powerful statement of the senseless violence and brutality of racism. And I say not to give it too much away. I literally said what happened, so I don't know. I was pretty tired when I wrote some of this. I apologize. Um, and the film's final shot is haunting and unforgettable. It has unforgettable images. Overall, Night of the Living Dead is an important film for its groundbreaking depiction of a black protagonist and its commentary on race and representation. Also, I mentioned earlier the ending of the original being heartbreaking, but I even say the remake's ending is equally devastating and its imagery, even more disturbing. Ben becomes a zombie in the 1990 Night of the Living Dead remake, and it is killed by a group of white men who then hang him from a fucking tree. Like Jesus fucking Christ. The end is a stark commentary on the ongoing problem of racism and violence against black people in America, and it is a powerful and haunting conclusion to the film. The remake's ending also differs from the original film, which had a more ambiguous and open-ended conclusion. While the 19 While The Night of the Living Dead, 1968, is often recognized for its contribution to the horror genre, which we will mention in just a moment, the film has also had a significant impact on black communities and black people today. The Night of the Living Dead was one of the first horror films to feature a black protagonist in the leading role. The film's protagonist, played by Dwayne Jones, is a black man who is forced to take charge and lead a group of survivors in the face of a zombie apocalypse. This was groundbreaking. This was a groundbreaking portrayal of a black character in a horror film, as the characters, were typically regulated to supporting roles, or were portrayed as villains, as I mentioned in my Indian Burial Ground episode. The film's portrayal of Ben as a strong, capable, and intelligent leader challenged negative stereotypes of black people that were prevalent in the media at the time. In the 1960s, black people were often portrayed as inferior or subservient to white people in the film industry and television, which it still happens today. I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, this was just a thing of the past. Like, I'm naive or a little child. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, it's obviously that's still going on today, like how I mentioned earlier. Um, the Night of the Living Dead challenged the stereotypes for portraying a black character who was not only intelligent and capable, but also a hero. The film's portrayal of Ben as a hero is particularly significant for the social and political climate of the 1960s. The civil rights movement was in a full swing, and black people were fighting for equal rights and representation. The Night of the Living Dead was released just months after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., and the film's portrayal of a black hero who was powerful who was a powerful and timely. It was a powerful and timely statement, okay? But I guess it also is even more devastating when he gets shot at the end with, it's I'm pretty sure that was just a lot. I even had my friend who when I made my Martin Luther King episode, apologize. Um, she told me that people were yelling out from across across from the hotel or the motel where he was shot. They were yelling out racial profanities, and were saying that they killed that N word and a whole bunch of awful things, and it's just like this was just a time where I felt like, this film really needed to be released, and it did. The Night of the Living Dead also had a significant impact on the horror genre. The film's low budget and independent production style paved the way for a new wave of horror films, which I will talk more towards the end of the episode. So, if you're interested in how it impacted, horror and the zombie genre, just stay tuned for the end. Um, Independent production style paved the way for a new wave of horror films that were made outside of the Hollywood studio system. This allowed for greater creative freedom and experimentation in the horror genre, which led to the development of new subgenres such as the slasher film and the found footage film genre. The influence on the horror genre can still be seen today. Many horror films, such as Get Out and Us, have been, praised for their social commentary and their portrayal of black characters. These films are part of a new wave of horror that is challenging traditional horror tropes and exploring new themes and ideas. The Night of the Living Dead also had a significant impact on the representation of black people in the film and television. The film's success helped to pave the way for more diverse representation of black people in Hollywood. Today, we are seeing more and more black filmmakers, writers, and actors in the entertainment industry, and this is part due to the trailblazing work of films like Night of the Living Dead. However, despite the positive impact, Night of the Living Dead has also been criticized for its portrayal of race. Some critics have argued that the film reinforces negative stereotypes of black people by portraying them as violent and aggressive. Others have pointed out that the film's ending, in which Ben is mistaken for a zombie and shot by a group of white men, can be interpreted as a commentary on the violence of racism black people face in America. So, it's a two-sided coin. Overall, The Night of the Living Dead has had a significant impact on black communities and black people today. The film's portrayal of a black hero challenges and challenged the negative stereotypes of black people and paved the way for greater representation in Hollywood. Okay, now that we talked about why it's an important film, especially in reference to the civil rights era and the oppression of black people in the United States, I did want to take a moment before we wrapped up to talk about the influence it had on the modern day zombie. So let's get into it. Also, if you hear dogs barking, I apologize. I can't go out there and tell the dogs to shut up. They're animals. They're doing what they do. The Night of the Living Dead, 1968, directed by George A. Romero, is widely regarded as a classic of the horror genre and is credited with creating the modern day zombie. The film's influence can be seen in countless movies, television shows, and video games, making it one of the most important cultural landmarks of the 20th century. The film's plot centers around a group of people who are trapped in a house in a rural Pennsylvania as a zombie outbreak spreads across the country. Romero's film was groundbreaking for its time, not only for its depiction of zombies, but also for its social commentary. The film was released during a time of great social upheaval in the United States, with the civil rights movement in full swing and the Vietnam War raging. Romero used the zombies outbreak as a metaphor for breakdown of society and the struggle of survival in a world that has lost its moral compass. One of the most significant aspects of the film was his portrayal of Ben, and played by Dwayne Jones, which I mentioned earlier. you know, it was Ben's character was significant because he was the only character in the film who was able to survive the zombie outbreak. But like I said, he ended up being shot at the end, being mistaken as a zombie. Which Romero's films also spawn this whole that whole film series. I recommend y'all just go out and watch that whole film series. It is so freaking crazy and wild how out there the series gets. Like the first one is so serious, especially when you're watching it with that in mind of social commentary of race and everything. So I just recommend y'all go out there and watch it for yourselves. The zombie genre has continued to evolve since the release of The Night of the Living Dead. In recent years, there has been a trend towards zombie stories that focus on character development and emotional depth rather than just gore and violence. Films like Warm Bodies and The Girl with All the Gifts have explored the idea of zombies who are capable of human emotion and have challenged the traditional binary of human versus zombie. Overall, The Night of the Living Dead is a landmark film that created the modern day zombie and challenged the horror genre. Its influences can be seen in many shows, video games, and its social commentary and depiction of the Black Hero made it a significant cultural artifact of the 20th century. I mean, is it that surprising that this film has had such an impact on the genre and on the conversation of race? I mean, the zombie genre is often used as a metaphor for issues in society. One of the most prominent themes explored in the genre is the fear of being consumed by a group that is different from oneself. And also, I kind of know I did say I was going to get into like how it made it the modern day zombie, but I just wanted to make it more so lightly because I didn't want that to be the focus. I just said lightly, like especially with the way zombies are portrayed today, as you got that whole Disney Channel show Zombies. Or is it a show or a movie? I don't freaking know. All I know is, that has ideas, they're being used for race and like to talk about segregation and all that stuff. So that's modern day zombies. That is. I'm sorry. You may not like the fact that I didn't speak directly on War of the Worlds and the way that you have to hit them in the head and kill their brain and how that's significant. But I would even say they're different, especially because as much as it had an influence on the way those zombies, because it did create those zombies, we would not have The Walking Dead or any of these movies without 28 Days Later. We wouldn't have none of them without Night of the Living Dead. I think you know I would rather talk about the impact it had on, the way the zombies are portrayed, especially with, people. Because you think of the way that Night of the Living Dead zombies can literally use tools, break windows, and kill you with things. The mom got killed with like a shovel or some shit. I don't remember. But, like, to sum up this episode and my thoughts on Night of the Living Dead, it's that it's an important film that has had a lasting impact on the horror genre, zombie movies, and popular culture. Its depiction of zombies as flesh-eating monsters who are impervious to pain and cannot be killed except by destroying the brain has become the standard for zombie genre. The film's social commentary and depiction of a black hero challenged negative stereotypes of black people that were prevalent in Hollywood at the time and made it a significant cultural artifact of the civil rights movement. The success of the films paved the way for a new era of horror filmmaking, and that was characterized by more realistic and violent depictions of horror, and influence can be seen in countless and television shows and video games today, you know? Overall, The Night of the Living Dead is an important film that has left an indelible mark on popular culture and will continue to be studied and celebrated for generations to come. With that being said, if you like today's episode, please feel free to subscribe, like, comment, and share to let me know you're enjoying all the hard work and research that goes into creating these episodes. And if you're interested in where I'm getting my opinions from, my everything is linked down below, including all my social medias, which you can follow me at hunnasmak, which is my main. I'm also over on Blue Sky now under the same name, and follow the official podcast Twitter page at TCN Pod. And with that being said, I'm hunnasmak, aka hunnasmak, and this has been the Curious Native Podcast.